You know, it doesn't surprise me, as I've mentioned before, that when someone like Jovan16, that's Jovian 16, um, does stories in a certain way where, it's exactly what it seems to be, it's promoted to be, I should say, that people seem to thrive towards that or go towards that more than anything. And the reason I say that is it's just it's just so curious that when he decided to go the route she decided to go the route that they did with Nano-Shift, if you will, it seems that the last chapter didn't get that much love, if not any at all, comment wise. But as soon as he went in a direction that they were used to with Nano-Shift for a bit, that's when all of a sudden the comments started to come in. And I think once more, as I've mentioned, this is just an example of the fact that people, when they become accustomed to something that they're used to seeing in the past, they expect to see more of it. They don't, expect it to be, removed or anything like that or changed up. Let me put it this way. Let me put it this way. They're cool with maybe changing up the story a little bit, trying to make it a little bit more intriguing, a little bit more different than what they have, been doing. But most of the time, the story still remains, you know, as it is. The story still remains as it is. And it looks like somebody's having a pool party over there or a birthday party or something. But like I said, it remains pretty much the way it is. I mean, it's like with any kind of, story or media. Once you change things up, either fans will embrace it, viewers, followers will embrace it, or, they won't. I mean, they'll still be invested, they'll still be interested and intrigued, but it won't be that same kind of intrigueness or investment, and interest that they once had, because all of a sudden things are being changed up. Now, I understand in the case of something like Nano-Shift, that's a story that's been going on for quite some time. I mean, if not several years, as a matter of fact. And sometimes the change-up is good. But it's almost like the moment he ended the recent chapter the way he did, it's like now he's kind of going off the track, or Jovan 16 is going off the tracks. But what's crazy, like I said, is the moment Jovan 16 started putting in the other things like Amanda and Nicole, he started to put in his newest one, which is something about shift or not shift, something like that. Some of that matter. Secret shift or something. I gotta look at the title. But when he put in this newer one where this guy has a shape-shifting ability, and the recent chapters had him ended by shape-shifting into a girl, and then we begin the new chapter with him as a girl. Something like that. I can't think of the name right now. And then he's got some other stories as well, like Beach Party. When you keep consistent, with the way they're being presented, or when they keep consistent, I should say, Jovan 16 that is, keeps consistent with it, you start noticing as a person that goes onto patreon.com to support him or see that, Jovan 16 is one of the people that you support, that when you see people commenting more on stuff like that, where it's pretty much, it's still somewhat the same as it was before, with a few changes here and there, they will comment. They will, continue to show a strong, very strong investment, intrigueness, and interest in the story. But when you divert from that, you'll still, like I said, you'll still have people invested, interested, and intrigued, but not to the extent where they'll want to comment and say, ooh, I like where this is going, and all that, because they pretty much know exactly from watching other similar kinds of media where it could end up, where the direction of the story will go. And not that they have a problem with that, it's just that they pretty much feel like now all of a sudden you're getting away from what made the story intriguing and interesting. Now, as I've mentioned before, when Jovan 16 brings Nano-Shift back, they might do a time jump and say now it's a couple months later and the main character is back to normal. The main character now knows its limits and potentially knows that the other side of her is a more dominant, vicious side that still lacks the understanding of, hey, you could, have fun with these powers, and you can help, the main character have enjoyment out of these powers, but not go too far. So that could be potentially something that happens. We're not entirely sure. I mean, I'm sure fans won't want to have to suddenly have the next scene they see in the next part or a few parts, and the main character, which was basically the last we saw her, was nothing but a puddle of goop now, or electric nano goop, being put in tubes where she's just floating, about like she's a lava lamp. Well, they wait for her to kind of like get back to normal or communicate or whatever the case may be. But again, the reason that you don't see people that invested in potentially knowing or wondering what's going to happen next in that manner, like what I just mentioned, is because, like I said, they've seen it before in other media, and what they feel is that Jovan 16 diverted away from what made the story good. And I'm sure Jovan 16 knows that. I think they know that, but I think when I see them doing something like what they're doing with Nano-Shift, I see somebody that's along the lines trying to create a story that, when it's all said and done, could potentially have the potential to become something more. It has the potential to become something more and more, and by having that potential could take them to another step, another level, if you will, of creativeness in inspiration. But sometimes keeping things as they are, if you will, doing that old Kiss analogy, if you will, keeping them simple as they are, keeping them in a way that doesn't divert too much from what fans are used to, viewers are used to, it's probably the best option. Because when you start to divert, again, like I mentioned, that's when you notice a little bit of a decrease. And sometimes that decrease could involve, fans not wanting to comment because they could pretty much see what's going to happen. And maybe that's why, Jovan 16 is taking a break from Nano-Shift, because maybe it is becoming too predictable and they need to shift, to coin a phrase, in another direction. But whatever they do, I do support them. That is why I am one of the supporters on Patreon, one of the Patreonees. And I hope that they do, take the time, breaking away from this story to focus on other stories, but also try to find a way to refresh this story to where, even if they continue where they leave off, or they time jump or whatever, that basically what they bring to the table will continue getting that investment back and intrigued back by others that are supporting them too. But what are your guys' thoughts when people decide to divert from the norm when it comes to the stories? Let me know down below. Comment if you like. Live chat during the premiere, where super chats are open and would be appreciated. And until next time, guys, I am out.